Ladies and gentlemen, and sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Deck Chicago, one of the couple 2 or 3 best podcasts around. So grab yourself a nice cold one and a bowl of sausage, park your keister in your French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. This is your host, Sean, and we've got a really great show for you today. I'm really glad we actually lost the recording for the Cubs season wrap-up because there's some big news that I'm sure you all know about. But in North Side, it is Maddon time. Maddon time 2015. So I'm really glad we got to have a second go at being able to talk about this because there's all kinds of excitement going on in the North Side. We're also going to have some of our friends from another podcast called Bawl. They're going to be on tonight talking about the Bears and the Bulls, and that's going to be later on in the episode. First, I want to mention our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. The Ice Hogs this season are 7-2-0-1 and riding a winning streak. So make sure to check out the next home game, Tuesday, November 4th versus the Lake Erie Monsters. It's WXRX Dollar Day at the BMO Harris Bank Center. Hot dogs, sodas, beers, and the companion tickets will all be available for $1. So catch all the excitement at the BMO as the Rockford Ice Hogs take on the Lake Erie Monsters. All that can be found at icehogs.com. Make sure to check that out. So like I said, all kinds of exciting news on the North Side. And as if the end of the season wasn't exciting enough, where we had all kinds of the young stars, future stars coming up and being able to play and being able to see tangibly a little bit of what the future holds for the Cubs. But now we have the news that one of the best managers in baseball, Joe Maddon, was able to opt out of his contract with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, and he has chosen to sign with the Chicago Cubs. By the time you hear this podcast, probably the Cubs will have already had the press conference. They are having it this coming Monday. So, unfortunately, they had to let go of Ricky Renteria, who I felt was a really good manager and maybe not the guy to go to bring them to the World Series, to that next level, but he was definitely the guy during the rebuilding process. And I feel that the Cubs are really going to fast forward this rebuilding process that they've already been had some lags on and a little bit of delay, more so than some of the hardcore fans thought. So going into this off season, the Cubs payroll is at just a shade over $31 million. $31 million. I mean, with some of the newly added revenue streams that the Cubs have, and some TV deals that are coming up, they're going to actually have some money to be able to spend in the off season. I think realistically, if they do a payroll of around $110 million, they've got a chance to be able to add some legitimate players to this roster and be able to compete with the Cardinals for the division and possibly go deep into the playoffs. So under contract still, we have Edwin Jackson, who's making a ridiculous amount of money still. And that's just really unfortunate because he's an albatross contract. He's not helping the Cubs at all. And I don't know what else to do with him. But I have one idea, and I'm going to go through that a little bit later. Starlin Castro, Anthony Rizzo, Jorge Soler, Ryan Sweeney, and then they bought out Kyuji Fujikawa's contract. So they've only got a handful of guys that are actually under contract. You've got Jake Arrieta due for arbitration, Wellington Castillo for arbitration, Felix Dobrandt, Justin Ruggiano, Luis Valbuena, Chris Coughlin, Travis Wood, Pedro Strop, Wada, Jacob Turner. Well, Jacob Turner was an arbitration. He had a $1 million option, which the Cubs already picked up. So for $1 million, you've got a legitimate, nice pitching arm that's former first-round talent. Also, John Baker, Wesley Wright, James McDonald, all due for arbitration. So looking at that, if the season were to start with the roster they have, we're looking at Arismendi Alcantara playing center field, batting leadoff. Chris Coughlin, one of the corner spots, batting second. Anthony Rizzo at first, batting third. Jorge Soler in the other corner spot, batting cleanup. Javier Baez at second, batting, well, probably Starlin Castro batting fifth at shortstop. Javi Baez sixth with playing second. Luis Valbuena at third base batting seventh, and Wellington Castillo batting eighth. Looking at Arismendi Alcantara, he's only 22 years old, so he had some good bright spots last season. He had some not so bright. Finished batting 205 with a 254 OBP. Not good numbers, but there was a lot of upside to that. He had 10 home runs in his short stretch. Ricky Renteria believed he had all of the tools that he needed to be a good leadoff hitter in this league. And he looked much better than his batting average when he was actually at the plate. So if you just did the eyeball test, it looked much better than that. And I know numbers don't lie, but he's only 22 years old. He's got a really bright future ahead of him. Chris Coughlin, he's a former Rookie of the Year. He was very unassuming this year, but he was a former Rookie of the Year in 2009, so it's not that far removed. Had some struggles, and a lot of teams gave up on him, but last season he finished with some respectable numbers for the Cubs. 283 batting average, 352 OBP, 9 home runs. He's still only 29 years old, so he's still in the prime of his career. I look for the Cubs to pick him up, and I'm guessing arbitration-wise, we're looking at probably about $1.4 million a year. That's a good estimate of what it'll cost, and for a guy who's probably going to be your starting left fielder, and where you could upgrade, and he would be a phenomenal backup spot starter. But that's $1.4 million is not a lot for that. Anthony Rizzo, still 24 years old, had a great season last year. 32 home runs, 286 batting average, really bounced back, and that's what Ricky Renteria was asked to do, is to get him and Starlin Castro hitting again, and that's exactly what they did. Jorge Soler, he had his ups and downs as well, but ended up with a 292 batting average, 5 home runs, still only 22 years old. This guy is going to be a superstar in this league, I think. Jorge Soler just looks like a man up there when he's batting, and the Cubs have him on a phenomenal deal. Javi Baez, the kid is either going to be exceptionally good or he's going to fizzle out fast. I don't see him as being mediocre. Finished the season really struggling. 169 batting average, a 227 OBP, and that's not good. And I don't even want to look at what the final total of strikeouts was, but the guy's got all the tools, and in the minors he looked great. So I really feel that he's going to come back. I mean, he looked great in spring training. I feel like he's going to get it back into the swing of things, and no pun intended, and be able to come back and bounce back and be a productive guy. He's still 21 years old. That's really young in baseball years. Starlin Castro, still only 24, 292 batting average, 339 OBP. Those are nice numbers, and if we can, and if the Cubs can't get all the pieces that they want, don't be surprised if they trade Starlin Castro, because they've got Addison Russell breathing down his neck as a guy that can come up and play in this league. Luis Valbuena it's been a really nice guy on this roster. He's only 28 years old, 16 home runs, he's able to play most of the infield positions to as a backup, and he's going to be the starting third baseman until they bring up Chris Bryant. And Chris Bryant is talented enough to be able to come up and play starting opening day, but contractually and being able to control him for a little longer, because his agent is Scott Boras, so you're looking at it as you don't want to lose another year of being able to control him, being able under team control. So look for them to keep Chris Bryant in AAA for at least the first month or so, and Luis Valbuena playing. Wellington Castillo, he's a guy that, I mean, he's a perfectly fine catcher, but is he the catcher that's going to be there when you take that next step forward and you're competing for the division going into the playoffs? 27 years old, 237 batting average, 296 OBP, 13 home runs. I mean, he had 102 strikeouts. So he does have a little pop in his bat, but he's nothing special. He's just an adequate catcher. Without adding any pitchers is your starting rotation, your 5-man rotation. Jake Arrieta is your number 1, Kyle Hendricks number 2, probably Travis Wood number 3, number 4, Jacob Turner, and 5. This could be, I mean, you still have Dallas Beeler, potentially Pierce Johnson, Felix Dobrandt, or Awada. And I still, no matter how many times I hear his name, see his name, I can never pronounce his first name. Tsuyoshi Wada. So Wada pitched really well last year, but he's a little bit of an older guy. He's not going to be around forever. And you still have Edwin Jackson as well. And, Pierce Johnson is moving his way up in the minors. He's got an amazing curveball. He's got some nice movement on his fastball. He's a guy that could, if he does well in spring training, wind up on this team, especially if they don't make a lot of moves. You still have one of the better bullpens, with your middle relief pitchers and Felix Dobrandt and Wesley Wright. Your 7th inning guys and Justin Grimm and Neil Ramirez. Setup is Vizcaíno and Pedro Strop, and then your closer Hector Rondon. So you've got a nice bullpen there. You turned a real weakness into a strength last year with some relatively inexpensive arms. And so there's a lot of pieces that you can work with if you're the Chicago Cubs. Now, if you step forward and say, all right, well, who's outside this organization that you're able to bring in and try to make this team better by stepping outside the org, is you've got Jason Hamill. He's a name he's a pitcher he's a guy that you pitched in your organization, liked being here, wanted to stay here, and you ended up moving him as part of the package to Oakland for Addison Russell and Dan Straley and Jeff Samardzija. So Jason Hamill's a back-end starter that you probably feel really comfortable. He worked well with Chris Basio, the Cubs pitching coach, and he's a guy that they're very comfortable with. Then there's also an interesting name that I've seen thrown around and from a lot of different organizations, a lot of different outlets, is Justin Masterson. He's a guy he's a big right-hander. He's got a ton of pitching ability, former first-round draft pick, but he's a guy who hasn't been able to turn really great stuff into really great outcomes yet. That's the best way to put it, probably, is he's got top-end starter stuff, but he just hasn't been able to get the outs that he's needed to get. So his numbers don't reflect what his stuff shows. So he's somebody that could be had relatively cheap, could do well with a change of scenery, could do well with Chris Basio. The Cubs have had a lot of success with taking guys with really good talent and have been scouted really high and be able to turn them around. I mean, Jake Arrieta is a perfect example of that. So that's an interesting name to throw around. You also have Francisco Liriano, another interesting name tossed around. John Lester, who is really been tied with the Cubs top brass. So you have Jed and Theo that are really tied with John Lester. And from what we hear is that John Lester is the Cubs pitcher to lose. And when you're talking about John Lester, is a lot of the rumors say that he's got to become a package deal with Jake Peavy. So is that such a bad thing? I mean, we've seen what Jake Peavy can do previously before his arm injuries, and then we saw what he could do this past season with the Giants. Brandon Morrow, another big righty. He was the number 5 overall pick in the 2006 draft. He's had some amazing games, but he's that guy that injuries keep costing him, and he's the guy that everyone's like, oh, if he could stay healthy, he's going to be amazing, and just hasn't been able to stay healthy yet. But I mean, he does have a complete game, one hitter with 17 strikeouts under his belt at the major league level, and that's a really impressive type game. I mean, that's like a Kerry Wood type game, Roger Clemens type game. But a lot of injuries, and he showed flashes in starts and flashes out of the bullpen. He can be had for really cheap because teams are just tired of him. And then there's James Shields, who is another guy closely tied with new coach Joe Maddon. He pitched for him in Tampa Bay for a long time, and he's done really well for Kansas City, taking them to a World Series. So those are some names outside the organization that you have to consider if you're the Cubs. And then I said earlier that something interesting to do with Edwin Jackson is, if you're the Cubs, you can't expect to put Edwin Jackson in your rotation and actually compete for the division title. He has just been absolutely miserable for you. He's been just atrocious, awful, terrible, bad. Anything you can think of, he's been that plus some. And there's a lot of bad contracts where guys just aren't living up to it. And, so a lot of teams will try to trade bad contract for bad contract. And there's been a lot of talk of that the Cubs were in talks with the Braves to trade one of their bad contracts for Edwin Jackson. And that doesn't really make sense. Gary and I talked about that on a previous show. But the one, just looking through some of the bad contracts that are out there, and one that may make sense is trading Edwin Jackson straight up for Carlos Beltran. Just think about it for a second. Carlos Beltran has a ton of experience in the playoffs and performing well in the playoffs. He's a very good hitter for a career. He's been an all-star. He's going to be a guy that is going to get some votes for the Hall of Fame. He's played very well in this league. But he's not a guy anymore at his age that you can rely on to be the guy. And he still has 2 years, I think $25 million left on his contract, which is right on par with what Edwin Jackson still has on his Cubs contract. So, trading an arm for an old bat, that works well for the Cubs because they don't need Carlos Beltran to be a starter. But what he can do is he can come in and be that fourth outfielder and be that veteran bat coming off of the bench. That's perfect. He's a guy with experience in this league. He can show a lot of tricks and tips and be a gelling force for these young guys because the Cubs have a really young team. I did the math on it. Is once Chris Bryant comes up, the average age of this team is going to be 23.75 years. So the average of this team is going to be under 24 years old. And with Luis Valbuena in there, starting ahead of Chris Bryant, the average age is a shade over 24 and a half years old. So this is a really young team. And sure, they've got a lot of talent, but you also need some veteran presence on there. And I think that would be perfect for Carlos Beltran is, nope, he's not going to have a ton of pressure on him. He's not going to have to start every day, so his old body has time to, be able to play a couple games here and there, and then rest his old agey bones. But he's also going to be great when you play the American League teams, is because he can be your designated hitter. So I think that's a really great swap, and I think that would work out perfectly for the Cubs if they were able to swing that. So straight up Carlos Beltran for Edwin Jackson. Even if you have to even out the money a little bit, there's a couple $1 million difference, but it's worth it to pay that difference, because I think Carlos Beltran would be a much better option for the Cubs than keeping Edwin Jackson on your team, because he's not pitching well. He makes a stink about not pitching when he keeps saying, well, I know I can do this, I know what I can do, and I'm just got to go out there and do it, and I just need an opportunity. And the guy's been given a ton of opportunities, and he's dreadful. He's dreadful. So it's just, you're taking away from younger starters who actually can go out there and perform. And maybe a change of scenery does well for Edwin Jackson. I mean, I don't hate the guy, but I don't want to see him pitch for the Cubs anymore. So I think Carlos Beltran for Edwin Jackson would actually be a really good option. So, some of the things that I think the Cubs need are starting pitching. If they don't pick up anybody, they've got a nice little rotation, but they're not gonna have the caliber to be able to compete with a team like the San Francisco Giants in a 7-game series, or Los Angeles Dodgers in a 7-game series. They don't have that horse right off the bat, like a Clayton Kershaw or Madison Bumgarner. They just don't have that guy. So starting pitching, a corner outfield spot, and a veteran bat, and a catcher. Those are the 4 things that I think the Cubs really need to focus on. And the good thing is, starting pitching wise, there's a lot out there. You've got Lester, PV, James Shields, Max Scherzer, Jason Hamill, Francisco Liriano, like I said, Brandon Morrow, Justin Masterson. There's a lot of pitching that's out there. And the thing is because hitting's been so low over the past couple years, I think that people are going to start undervaluing pitching and start more revaluing and having higher value on position players / hitters. So I think this is going to be the year for the Cubs, because they've already stockpiled their bats. They need the Cubs have already stockpiled their hitters. They just need to add some pitching to there. And they've got a few pitchers that look nice in the minors, but they're not anybody I don't think that's going to be ready to come up and contribute in a great way in 2015. So the most realistic chance that I think the Cubs have would be Lester and Peavy say they want to come as a package. Peavy has some roots in Chicago with his time with the White Sox. So I think that's an interest for him, is come back to Chicago. And John Lester has a lot of ties with Theo Epstein. So I think this is a realistic possibility. And a realistic contract you're looking at with John Lester is probably 6 years. I think he's going to his starting is going to be 5 years, that he's going to want 5 years, probably 125. I think that's going to be the starting point for negotiations. I think in order to get him, you give him that 6th year, and he's gonna jump on board. So I'm saying you're probably gonna give him something in the neighborhood of 6-year, $160 million contract. And Peavy, you're looking more of a 2-year, probably $25 to $28 million. And just for the sake of numbers and being, conservative on towards the higher number, is, I'm going to say 2-year, $28 million. So I think if you give Lester 6 years, $160 million, which is a large, absurd amount of money. It's what he's going to command in the open market, and I think he's still in his prime. He's still going to be pitching well at the end of that contract. So I think that's a good deal. And Peavy, 2-year, $28 million I think that's a good number for him. I think you can get both of those guys with that. So then you're looking at a rotation of John Lester, a lefty, number 1, Jake Arrieta, number 2 with a righty, Kyle Hendricks, your number 3 righty, Jake Peavy, number 4 righty, and then Travis Wood as your number 5 starter, a lefty. So you've got a nice match of lefty righties, and you've got a good rotation. You got a guy who's going to have, I'm expecting to have a bounce back season, because last season was not very good for Travis Wood, but that was just a really unusual year for him, I think. So I think he would be fantastic as a number 5 starter. And then with that, those contracts, and then the guys that the Cubs have for arbitration, and just going through who is eligible for arbitration, I'm just going to throw out numbers that I think are realistic for arbitration. Is you got John Baker, he's probably going to be due about 1.1. Jacob Turner got his option at $1 million. Wada is due to $5 million option, which I think he's worth for a 1-year deal. Wellington Castillo, $2.1 million. I think that's reasonable. Felix Dobrant, 1.3. Pedro Strop, 2.4. Travis Wood, 5.5. Justin Ruggiano, 2.5. Luis Valbuena, probably 3.1-ish. Chris Coughlin, 1.4. Wesley Wright, $2 million. So those are the numbers you're looking at that you're going to have to add into that $31 million base salary plus the Lester and Peavy contracts. And then, so I said we need starting pitching, veteran bat, corner outfielder, and a catcher. If we're able to swing the Edwin Jackson for Carlos Beltran trade, that takes 2 of those spots up. He can play one of the corner outfield spots. He can also be a veteran bat that you need. Looking at some of the top free agents that are available, we already talked about the pitching a little bit, but then you've got Hanley Ramirez, and the Cubs have too many shortstops already in this organization. They're just jam-packed with them. Javi Baez, Starlin Castro, Addison Russell. You've just got a lot of shortstops. What do you need Hanley Ramirez for? He's not going to help you out. Then you've got Pablo Sandoval. He played phenomenal, helped the Giants win the World Series, played really well. He could be a veteran bat. He's got a nice bat. The issue is that if you put him at third, that's where Chris Bryant plays. So you're going to either have to move Chris Bryant to the outfield spot, which is a potential, but he seems to want to play third base, and it's nice to have that power at third base. So I don't see Pablo Sandoval coming, because Chris Bryant is the third baseman of the future. Victor Martinez, we don't need a DH. Another interesting one is Yasmani Tomas, the Cuban defector who's 24 years old. He's right fielder. He's just got big power numbers, but he's going to want big money. The Cubs got a guy in Jorge Soler for when he defected over, and they got him for a lot of money, but it was a very team-friendly, reasonable deal. The White Sox got their first baseman for what seemed to be a lot of money, but now is seeming like a steal. And so there's been a lot of Cuban deals that have been big money, but they've worked out very well and been very team friendly. So I don't know what kind of ridiculous money Tomas is going to want. So I don't see the Cubs being contenders in there with that, because they don't know exactly what they're going to get, and I don't know if they're going to want to commit that money. But that is an interesting possibility. There's Melky Cabrera, but he's 30 years old, and he's got a suspension for PED use in 2012, and he's going to want a lot of money. I don't see the Cubs going after there. Nelson Cruz, He's too old, and I don't see him leaving Baltimore. Ramos Ramirez, again, Cubs have history with Ramos Ramirez. Did well for the Cubs, but he's older, and he's another guy that's going to stop Chris Bryant from coming up because he's another third baseman. Which brings us to, drum roll, Russell Martin. Russell Martin is going to be a huge name in this free agency. The guy has a WAR that's through the roof. He's a great bat. He's even a better pitch caller, which is what the Cubs are going to need. So towards the end of his contract, if he's not hitting well, who cares, because he calls such a good game. And with this young pitching staff, and the Cubs are going to throw money at pitching, you've got a great pitching coach. You're going to have a great rotation. You want to make sure you have a catcher that can call a good game as well. Plus, the guy has like a 415 OBP last year. So he can get on base. That's exactly what the Cubs are looking for. And like I said, is with Wellington Castillo, he's a perfectly Addison, stop. Go lay down. Addison, go lay down. What'd I tell you? No. No. Go. Where's your mom at? Go get your mom. Go get your mom. Go. Go get your ball. Where's your ball? Go. Is the Cubs needed a... I said... What I said earlier about Wellington Castillo is that he's a perfectly acceptable catcher, but he's not going to be the catcher when you are competing for the division title and trying to go deep in the playoffs. He's just a perfectly acceptable catcher. You need to improve that. And Kyle Schwarber is a guy that can hit. I don't know if he's going to be the catcher of your future, but if you sign a guy like Russell Martin to a 4-year contract, you've got 4 years to give Kyle Schwarber in the minors. And worst case scenario, if he can come up sooner than that, is toss him in the outfield. Or have him spot at first base for a while. If he wants to play catcher full time, is in 4 years he's got that opportunity. So Russell Martin, realistically, you can get him for a 4-year, $52 million contract. That's going to be probably the going rate for him, and I think he's really worth it. So if you can trade Carlos Beltran, Fredwin Jackson, you've got your veteran bat, you've got your corner outfielder, you've got a veteran bat with Russell Martin, you've got your starting pitching with Lester and Peavy. And so that's going to make your starting lineup be Coghlan, Alcantara, Soler, and Beltran be your 4 outfielders. Valbuena, Chris Bryant being your third baseman. Castro, Baez, Rizzo rounding out your infield. And then Russell Martin being your catcher. And then... So your pitching, your whole pitching, with your whole rotation, with your whole 25-man roster, you're looking at probably 12 pitchers. So you've got John Lester, Jake Arrieta, Kyle Hendricks, Jake Peavy, Travis Wood as your starters. And then your spot starters / long relievers, you got Felix Dobront, Jacob Turner. You got Justin Grimm, Neil Ramirez, Aroldis Vizcaíno, Pedro Strop, and then your closer Hector Rondon. So for your whole pitching, your pitching on your team is you got about $57.6 million, depending on what the final numbers are, but it's going to be somewhere around there, $57.6 million. Catchers is you've got an option if you do sign Russell Martin is you can either try to get Wellington Castillo to be the backup, or if you want to save some money and have Baker be the backup. I think Wellington Castillo would be a great backup. I think he's a much better player than Baker, clearly, because he's starting. So you're looking at, if you keep Wellington Castillo and give him, pay him through arbitration, you're looking at about $2.1 million. And then the yearly breakdown for Russell Martin will be about $13 million. So catchers, you got locked in at about $15 million. And then your infield, you've got Anthony Rizzo making a little over 5, Javi Baez, Starlin Castro, Luis Valbuena, and then you're going to need to round out that infield until Chris Bryant comes up. So I'm guessing Mike Olt will be up there, and then look for them to pick up a utility infielder who's just going to be a bench guy for the most part, spending about $1 million on him a year. And so infield, you're at about $17.25 million-ish. And then your outfield, Chris Coughlin, like I said, I think in arbitration you're going to look at about $1.4 million for him. You've got Alcantara still under his rookie deal. Jorge Soler's making $2.67. Ryan Sweeney, who you still have under contract at $1.5. And then, like I said, for the trade, Carlos Beltran. And you're looking at, if you pay the difference with Edwin Jackson and him, he's going to be $15 million. So you're at $21 million for your outfield, bringing your grand total for the whole team, your payroll, at about $111 million, which is perfectly great for the Chicago Cubs. I think that's a good number for them. I think they could go higher, but with a lot of the financial things that we've talked about in depth before, with the debt ratio that the Cubs have to maintain because they're still financing the team under the rules of baseball, and the revenue streams that they've been able to get, and the new TV deal that they're going to get, $111 million seems very good. And this is a team that you can really win with. And then you've still got a lot of talent still in your minor leagues. So you've got Chris Bryant, who is going to come up in 2015. Hit 35 home runs last year. Just tore it up from Double A, Triple A. Just tore up everywhere he went, and was minor league player of the year unanimously. And I don't think anybody else was close. Addison Russell, who hit 285, he's going to look like. Then you still have a lot of talent in the minor leagues. You still have Chris Bryant down there, who's eventually going to come up. He's going to be the third baseman sometime in 2015. It just depends on when they bring him up. And statistically projecting him, he's looking at, in the majors, probably a 275 hitter with 35 home runs, which is really nice. He's going to have some pop in that Wrigley Field and get the corner spot. Addison Russell, he's projecting to be about a 285 hitter with 25 plus home runs. And he's going to be a guy that's probably going to come up either in late 2015 or sometime in 2016. That's kind of what his projection is. You've got Kyle Schwarber, who's probably going to be a 2017 guy that comes up. He's projecting to be a 280 hitter with 25 home runs. Jorge Soler, I'm looking for him to stay up in the bigs because he did enough to stay up there during the season. Albert Almora is still coming, and he looks like he's projecting to be a 290, 295 hitter with 15 to 20 home runs. And you look for him to come up either 2017, 2018. CJ Edwards, he's looked very good when he's stayed healthy. You look for him to come up about 2016 or 2017. Dwayne Underwood, another good pitcher, look for him to come up in 2018 or 2019. And then Pierce Johnson, he's looking like, dark horse to come up 2015 sometime, really dark horse, but probably more like 2016. So the Cubs have a lot of talent that's coming up, and that's just their top guys that are projecting that well and looking like they're going to come up. So Joe Maddon is really exciting when they bring him up here because he's got the experience to take these guys and make everybody feel comfortable whether they're a veteran or a young guy. And I think if the Cubs can add these key pieces, they could really be a force starting next year. And realistically, if they put together the team I just kind of ran through, is they realistically could go out there and beat the Cardinals to win the division. You have a filthy starting rotation with John Lester, Jake Arrieta, Kyle Hendricks, Jake Peavy, and Travis Underwood. You've got Russell Martin in there, who's much better than Wellington Castillo. He's going to call a better game, and you've got great pitching coach with Chris Basio, and you've got a guy who's fantastic with being able to manage his pitchers in Joe Maddon. And then you've got a catcher who's one of the better catchers in the game at calling pitches, and his wins above replacement is just ridiculous. So you add him to the mix. You add, being a stabilizing force in there to help Javi Baez, hit a little better. You've got Alcantara having another year under his belt. Rizzo looking to keep those numbers up. Starlin Castro, if Addison Russell comes up sooner, you can trade him, because shortstops that can hit are a real commodity right now in baseball. And you could trade him and get a lot of value. You could trade Starlin Castro and get a ton for him. So I see before the end of that contract, I probably not this year, but maybe next year, next offseason. So a year from this time, Starlin Castro being shopped around, or Addison Russell, one of the two. So those guys being shopped around, but you've got a nice ball club there. I mean, Chris Coughlin's still your weak link out there because he doesn't have much pop in his bat, but he was a nice timely hitter and played well enough for the Cubs last year to be recognized and considered for that spot. So I think the Cubs really have a lot to go on, and this is going to be a really nice offseason. And I think the signing of Joe Maddon has got to be a signal that the Cubs are really going to go out there and try to make a splash. And the thing is if they make a big splash, what's to say they don't make a big splash next year? I mean, we already talked about the stuff that they could do this year, but Gary is going to crucify me. Gary's not on the episode today, but he listens even when he's not on, and he's going to crucify me for saying this. But let's just say is they do get John Lester this year and Jake Peavy, and what's to stop them from going out next year and getting Ryan Zimmerman or Jeff Samardzija or David Price? If you have a 1-2 combination of John Lester and David Price, you are going to be able to compete in any 7-game series because you're going to throw both of those guys out there twice. That's 4 games right there. You're going to be able to compete. You're going to be up there like a Giants. And I know that's – I'm going to put pause right now that is a long-term kind of wishful thinking role, but what I'm saying is that's a situation that's really, really good and that could happen. But realistically, John Lester, Jake Peavy, those are realistic. Russell Martin, that is realistic. And Carlos Beltran and a trade for Edwin Jackson. They've tried to trade Carlos Beltran, and the Cubs are trying to trade Edwin Jackson. I don't see that as anything that's that off, and I don't expect a ton out of Carlos Beltran, but he is a guy that has a lot of postseason experience and has done well in multiple places, and he's won World Series. So you add a guy that has postseason experience to your roster to a team that has John Lester, who's won a World Series. You've got Russell Martin, who's just a guy that wins. And then you've got a coach like Joe Maddon, who's just a winner. And suddenly that changes this whole lovable loser type mentality, and you've got winners in this clubhouse. So that's really all I'm going to say about the Cubs. And I would love for you guys to call in and say your suggestions or where you think I'm being ridiculous or whatnot, because I think this is an actual doable plan. I think I've crunched the numbers enough where this is a realistic possibility. The arbitration numbers are things that I've gone through, plus I've looked at other sources, some legitimate sources where there seem to be really good ballpark numbers. I mean, nobody has a crystal ball and can see in the future, but all these numbers are within the realm of realistic, and the Cubs can field a really winning team for 2015. So that's all I'm really say about that. And we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to have the guys from Bawl. And we are going to talk Chicago Bears. We're going to talk the Chicago Bulls. And we're going to actually do a separate episode that's going to be posted a little bit late and towards midweek, where we're going to have Chris Block from Third Man In and Committed Indian and talking about the Blackhawks. We're going to do a whole Blackhawks show. So all you Blackhawks fans out there, get ready for that one. So hold tight, and we're going to do a spot for our sponsor, and then we're going to come back with our guest from Bawl. Make sure to check out our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs, riding high with a nice winning streak and a record of 7-2-0-1 to start the season. Hockey comes back to the BMOs Tuesday, November 4th. Forgot that we're already in November. So Tuesday, November 4th versus the Lake Erie Monsters at 7 p.m. If you haven't been to the BMO in Rockford, it's a fantastic place to go see a game. You got a really exciting team. It's really fan-friendly, fun with for your whole family. It's really affordable. Tickets starting at just $8. And then Tuesday is going to be actually WXRX Dollar Day at the BMO, where hot dogs, pop, beers, companion tickets will all be $1 each. You can't get a better deal than that. Plus, you're going to see a lot of guys that are going to be in Blackhawk sweaters in the coming years. So I can't think of a better reason than that to go check out the Rockford Ice Hogs. It's just a really good time, so make sure to check it out at icehogs.com. I want to welcome to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago some of my friends from the show Bawl. Big Dave, you wanna school me on the way to say this?
Well, first of all, let me say you are the first person to have us on your show who has absolutely said it correctly. Like, I like the power in your voice when you said it. That was quite wonderful. You heard the inflection, right, Chris?
I heard the inflection. It's better than me, actually. I can't say it right.
Yeah, Chris can't say it at all. So you've already succeeded, Sean. But the origins of the show, Bow. The origins of it is you have to say it like Avery Johnson is saying it. So you have to picture in your brain Avery Johnson saying ball. Now, if you're a person that knows sports, you know what Avery Johnson sounds like. And Avery Johnson saying bow sounds exactly like that. So that's exactly where the name of the show came from, because Chris and I used to sit around and we would always make fun of Avery Johnson and how he spoke. And anytime we would say, Dirk Nowitzki, go get the bow. And that's how it came out. So that's how we got the name of the show. So you said it right, man. I heard the Avery Johnson all in your throat, bro. You did it right.
Speaking of Avery Johnson, did anybody watch the horse racing yesterday on TV?
I did not.
So, you know, anytime they have the horse race in there, they show any celebrity that's in a 10-mile radius. So they were like, oh, we got Elizabeth Banks, and she's wearing a goofy hat. And then they're like, and we got Avery Johnson. And it's just like Avery Johnson just like looking around like, my camera, what am I doing? I just think they caught him. He was going for a beer somewhere, and they're like, you watching horse race? And he's like, what?
Right, he got mustard on his face. He's like, I wasn't ready for this. No, yesterday I went to the rugby game at Soldier Field.
There was a rugby game at Soldier Field?
Yeah, it was the first time the New Zealand All Blacks, who are like the San Antonio Spurs of the rugby world, they've never ever been to the States. They've never been to North America. They've never been here. And it was their first time being here. So it was very historic. It was 61,000 people there. Like, it was extremely historic. And it was just hilarious to watch Team USA. And I didn't know Team USA had a rugby team. But it was hilarious to watch Team USA get destroyed by the New Zealand All Blacks.
Yeah,
can you imagine? Go ahead, Sean. Go ahead.
A, that sounds like a racist name of a team. And B, the problem is in America, anybody that would be good at rugby is playing football and getting paid.
Well, let me retort that by saying that's why I thought the name was awesome. New Zealand All Blacks. I thought that was a spectacular name. And two, can you guess what the final score would be?
I don't even know. I don't even know how they score rugby.
I mean, it's they scored the same way as football. I think it's 5 points for a touchdown, and then afterwards they kick an extra point where you get about 2 points. So picturing that in 40-minute halves, what do you think the final score was?
I'm going to say it was probably even worse than the Bears-Patriots. I'm going to say 48-6.
Well, you're right on the 6, but because USA scored 6 and New Zealand scored 74.
Wait. Did they have like an MTV Rock and Jocks All-Star Game, the 25-point shot?
Dan Cortez was playing for Team USA Rugby, and Bill Bellamy and Kennedy were there also. It was ridiculous. It was one of the most fun times I've ever had at a sporting event. I mean, the precision that those guys played with, man, they really looked like the San Antonio Spurs, the way they moved the ball. And I mean, their defense was better than their offense. They were laying people out. It was bloody noses and just hurt feelings. it was great. I enjoyed it.
It was a whole team of beast mode.
Yeah, oh yes, there's a whole team of beast mode, man. They're about that action, boss.
Yeah.
Yes.
That reminds me of like one time I went to a soccer game, and it was at Soldier Field, and they had the Chicago Fire was doing an exhibition game against like the Mexican national team.
Uh-oh.
And there was like 8 people that started chanting, "Let's go Fire," and then the other 60,000 people were chanting, "Mexico, Mexico."
That's kind of how this was. Like, Team USA was there. They were representing, and people were very Americanized there, and they had on their outfits. It was a guy in a red, white, and blue halter top. I mean, I saw a guy dressed like Rocky. He didn't have his shirt on. He had on the Apollo Creed red, white, and blue trunks. It was cold outside, by the way.
Did he have the red, white, and blue top hat to go along with it?
He did. Yes, he did.
Nice.
He had the top hat. Yes, he did. And he had the robe and everything. And so they were out in full force. But people who knew the game, because I went with my nephew who plays rugby, so he really knew the game, and he knew the All Blacks were going to destroy them. So people who knew the game understood what it was, and they were like, we just want to score. That's all we want to do. We want to score. And they did not. The closest they got was when the score was 12-6. After 12-6, they did not score again.
That's just kind of embarrassing.
It was embarrassing and awesome. Yeah.
Was this like on ESPN? Was this air like worldwide?
Yes, it was. It was nationally televised on NBC. NBC nationally televised a 74-6 ass whooping. It was great.
That's just embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
I enjoyed it. I really did.
The dream team of rugby versus
yes.
the
Spurs, man.
the Spurs. Yeah, that sounds.
Yeah, the rugby Spurs versus a bunch of guys that couldn't play professionally in any other sport.
Yes, it's like the Jamico Saints, like just some Jamoke team you never heard of. It was ridiculous, man. So yeah, but it was a great time.
That's like on Midnight Madness, and you have like, you know, the top 25 teams getting ready to warm up their first practice of the season, and then they warm up against Pella Windows team.
Right.
Like you get like a bunch of has-beens that never made it anywhere that played somewhere along the way, playing the exhibition teams.
It was ridiculous. It was sparring. It was like if you're into wrestling, it was like when they wrestled the Brooklyn Brawler. Like the Brooklyn Brawler in wrestling was like a guy who always lost. Like he was a guy that came in specifically to lose to another wrestler, and it was a team full of Brooklyn Brawlers out there, man.
True fact. When I was a little kid, I had a friend who thought the Brooklyn Brawler was the best wrestler ever, and he was just like, he's gonna get on a hot streak.
What?
It's cool to like the underdogs in wrestling, though. You kind of look at him like he's gonna win one match sometime. He's gonna win one. He gets close to doing it, then he gets his ass whooped at the end. But you know,
no, he was an underdog. Everybody knew if you saw the Brooklyn Brawler, you were about to lose.
He was like the Washington Generals of pro wrestling.
Absolutely, that's absolutely what he was. Did you feel that about the Washington Generals, Chris?
Well, I know. Every time I saw Steve Austin run out there in the older days, wearing all pink, I knew he was getting his butt kicked. Steve Austin.
Who's Steve Austin? Oh, Stunning
Steve Austin.
Wow.
You didn't know that?
I'm going to give you props.
All right.
For knowing who Stunning Steve Austin is, sir. You get props for knowing who Stunning Steve Austin is. I'm very proud of you right now. I never felt closer to you than I do right now. That's impressive, man. Good job. I'm proud of you, man.
The other week I was at a bar, and they were playing the documentary about the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal.
Okay.
And I've never been so, like, glued to a TV before. People are talking to me, and I'm just like watching them when they wrestled at Comiskey Park in like 82.
Yeah, they were the stuff, man. Like the Road Warriors, and also they were called the Legion of Doom, but they were from Chicago, a Chicago-based tag team, man. And I used to love them as a kid. They were one of my favorites because they came to the ring, Chris, in shoulder pads with spikes on them. You know what I mean? Like it was Animal and it was Hawk. You know what I mean? And they had spikes on their shoulder pads like they were from Mad Max or something. You know what I mean? Paint, and their faces were painted. You know, and they had mohawks and
Oakland Raider fans, right?
They were Oakland Raider fans, yes. And they would come out and kick your ass, and it was great, man. I love the Road Warriors. They were one of my favorite tag teams of all time, Road Warriors. Yes.
So let's get for those of you guys don't know, the guys from Bawl.
Yeah.
They do another Chicago sports show. It's really awesome. You can check it out at rookietv.com/Bawl.
Yeah. BAWL.
And you can check them out on Twitter at Bawl Sports.
We appreciate your effort, man.
Yeah, we do.
So yeah, we've got Big Dave and Chris. So let's talk Chicago Bulls because we got the season underway now. We got the first Derrick Rose injury under our belts.
Oh,
son.
That
seems like an annual tradition now. It's like hanging up the Christmas tree.
Oh, man.
Every time he falls or winces or does something, my heart skips a beat. I'm like glued to the screen. Like, please get up. Please don't hold your knee. Hold anything but your knee when you get up. Oh man, but it's just an ankle injury though, man. It's just an ankle. He has 2 hurt ankles. It's okay. He'll come through. He'll be back. He'll be back very soon.
I just every time he falls down, all I can picture is Peter Griffin when he's holding his knee going, ah. That's my new Derrick Rose impersonation.
Yo, that's my knee. Hey, you watch Game of Thrones?
I've never seen it.
Oh, well, this joke's gonna patch you. Well, forget it then. Don't worry about it.
He figured since I bonded on wrestling, he was gonna throw Game of Thrones out there with you.
I mean, I know what it is. I just never seen it.
Oh yeah, it's a good show if you're gonna watch it. But
I'm broke. I don't got HBO.
Oh, it's all right. It's all right.
I don't have HBO either, too, man.
He's Chris finds other means and methods to watch this show. That's all he does. But yeah, watching Derrick Rose get hurt. I mean, you as a Bulls fan, I'm sure you felt your heart drop to your stomach when he started limping because it looked exactly like, you know, the other knee injury he had in Portland. And you just don't want to see that. And when he didn't come back in the game, I know I was extra concerned because I kept asking Chris, "Where's Derrick? Where's Derrick?"
Yeah, it was like a secret. There was no sideline reporter coming in and saying anything. Derrick was hiding at the back of the bench. Like, we literally went like half a game without any kind of knowledge at all what was going on. Like, you have a sideline reporter. Isn't their job to find out what's going on? But they was keeping it top secret.
Well, I reached out to the Reggie Rose hotline, so it was basically I was like, "Reggie, what's going on?" He said, "They're not getting enough help for Derrick." He's just gonna sit out the rest of the half.
Oh. You say that was a call from Reggie, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
He reaches out to me anytime he needs to complain.
Oh, he's a smart man.
You gotta get the word out.
Yeah, man. I was just genuinely hurt, but honestly, I wasn't as concerned when they told me it was an ankle and a sprained ankle. And I like the fact that they're taking precautions and just keeping him out because personally, I think he could have played against Minnesota if they needed him to. You know what I mean? But I think they were just taking precautions with him and Taj, especially him though, and just, you know, letting them rest because their next game is on Tuesday. So let him rest. You know, get himself right, man, because he was playing great in that Cleveland game.
Yeah, I agree. It's a long season. I think the Bulls organization and things to turn around to the fact that you don't have to win every single game. So I think he'd be fine. I think he has 2 hurt ankles, right? So no reason to play against Minnesota. Take your time.
I like how you guys are saying a Tibbs coach team doesn't need to win every single game. That man is intense. He wants to win preseason games.
Yeah, I know. But he's learning, you know, baby steps. Baby steps. He's
got Pax Angar in his ear.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because during the press conference after the game, he mentioned that the players were on restricted minutes, and it seemed like he was complaining about it, as if it wasn't his decision, as if his hands were tied. Did you hear that? And did you get that vibe?
I didn't see the press conference.
Okay,
so I'll have to go back and watch it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some reporter asked him about the minutes, and he's like, "Well, they're unrestricted minutes, so I think they played the amount of minutes they could supposed to play." I don't know. Basically, he was like, seemed a little upset the fact that he didn't have full control of his roster. I don't know, a little something there.
But to me, this this team is much deeper than any of the last few seasons, even though they've had good teams. This one's much deeper. I don't see the reason to play those guys, the Jimmy Buckets minutes.
No, it's true, and I don't know if Chris. I know Chris in particular was very upset with how Tibbs coached that game against Cleveland, and the people he had in the fourth quarter at a time when you needed offense. He didn't have any of the offensive players in that were giving you offense throughout the game, like Aaron Brooks was not in the game. Gasol wasn't in the game, even though Gasol wasn't having a good shooting game percentage wise. But just the fact that he's a threat, as Chris said, he was a threat to hit a 3-pointer and a threat to actually score more so than Joakim Noah was. Because if Joakim Noah gets the ball, they're going to back on off. They're going to let him take that tornado jump shot. But on Paul Gasol, you have to give him respect. So that helps your offense when somebody is playing up on another 7-footer. And I don't know why Tibbs wasn't understanding that. I guess, it's part of me wants to just chalk it up as the second game, but the other part of me have seen him do this before, and so it just makes me concerned going through the rest of the season.
Yeah, because this year there's no excuses. There's no reason to do that. You had in the past you had reasons, to put in a defensive lineup because you had no one else to put in the game. This year they give you offensive players, and you don't use them. There's no excuse for that. I just could not understand why he didn't put Brooks or Gasol in the game. And then he substitutes Noah out of the game with like 16 seconds left and puts Gasol in the game, which is pointless because you should have had Gasol in the game in the first place anyway. What's the point? If Noah's good enough to play with 24 seconds, why is he good enough to play with 16 seconds? It was just crazy. I didn't get what Tibbs was doing in the fourth quarter.
I mean, for me, it was when the Bulls were losing to Miami the last few years, you just got a sense after the loss we're not as good of a team as they are. But I didn't get that feeling with the Cavs. I mean, they were so many long rebounds that they were getting that shouldn't have gone that far, and you had guys like Dunleavy and Doug McDermott just missing wide open threes that they're not going to miss regularly. And then you had Sideshow Bob from Cleveland just getting all kinds of ridiculous rebounds. So it just felt like a fluky game to me.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point was that all the second chance shots they had, I mean, that's where the majority of the points came from the first half. And you got to think that's not going to happen on a regular basis. And, of course, the backcourt's missing. We didn't have Jimmy Butler in the game, which would have totally changed things around because, obviously, Dunleavy is not going to guard LeBron James. And you got to figure the fact second half we didn't even have Rose in the game. And again, in the game, today's point was like, it's still close. We don't have half our team out there, but yet we're still competing with these guys. It's the second game, but you could kind of see with the full roster, the Bulls should be able to compete against Cleveland.
Oh, I think they can beat Cleveland handedly. I mean, when you're sending Dunleavy out there to guard LeBron James, and to be fair, Dunleavy did a really good job guarding Carmelo when they played the Knicks. I mean, he did about as well as you'd expect anybody to do. And they completely routed the Knicks. That triangle offense fell apart real quick.
To the rectangle offense real fast. They abandoned it immediately, even in the second game when they played Cleveland. It was abandoned immediately, and it was Carmelo like, hey, man, just give me the ball and let me do what I do. And, yeah, but watching the Bulls in that first game against the Knicks, the word I kept using to describe the Bulls was terrifying. It looked terrifying. They looked really terrifying. And playing against Cleveland, it was all about Tibbs that game. It really was. The coaching errors we felt that he made didn't go with the kind of team that they are. And having Kirk Heinrich out there for that long a period of time, even though he had a good game, as Chris kept saying, when it comes down to the last shot, you really want Kirk Heinrich taking your last shot. And you saw Kirk Heinrich take the last shot, and what happened, of course, a classic Kirk Heinrich miss. And that's going to happen every time if he chooses Kirk Heinrich over Aaron Brooks, if he chooses defense over offense, if he chooses familiarity over risk. And Aaron Brooks is not a big of a risk as Nate Robinson. I know people compare him to Nate Robinson because of the size, but he's not as big of a risk as Nate Robinson was because he shoots better. He's a better shooter and a much better scorer than he was.
Well, Nate Robinson, just out of necessity, he'd have to chuck up a half quarter every once in a while and a turnaround 3-pointer, and you're like, what are you doing? He's the guy you love to hate and hate to love.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm a big Aaron Brooks fan. It was frustrating to see. I hope this is not a trend. I hope Tibbs understands that he doesn't have to play defense. You're down points in the fourth quarter. Why are you putting defense in the game? If you're up some points, maybe 10, 5 points, fine. I understand having Kirk and having a defensive players on the game. But you cannot have them in a game when you need to score. And then he had Noah in the game. You're down by like 4 points and you have Noah in the game. You can't shoot a jump shot, nor a three. And you got Kirk in the game who can't shoot a three or nor a jump shot. Kirk was hot that game, but I guarantee you, Thibs did not put Kirk in the game thinking he's gonna go back to Jordan in the fourth quarter. That wasn't his goal. His goal was to put Kirk in the game to run the offense or something. But you're down points. You need to score. How do you have Noah on the floor? We need a three. We had the best 3-point shooting center in the league, but you choose to bench him for Noah. I don't understand his mentality. I don't know his loyalty or he's just like Dave mentioned. Familiarity with his players or being comfortable. But Thibs is a veteran coach now. He has players on his roster who can score. You shouldn't be doing that. It's enough of that. There's no excuse at all.
I mean, I think Tibbs is a guy that goes with comfort. And when it gets to a certain point, he goes with his gut, which is his comfort zone. And I'm actually surprised how much he's played a guy like Doug McDermott, who is a rookie, although he's different than other rookies because he played 4 years of college and was a coach's son and all that. But he's played him quite a bit. He's played Tony Snell, who's second-year guy, played him a lot. I mean, so he's giving guys minutes that you wouldn't expect Thibodeau to give minutes to. So you could see some evolution to him.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and also, we had some injuries. The Bulls, Rose and Butler being out, so those guys they got some tick. But yeah, you're right. I truly hope that he changes his ways. I really do. You can't keep. And how are you comfortable with? I don't understand, but if you're comfortable with have Noah and Kirk in the game, my question is why they can't shoot? Why are you comfortable with someone who can't shoot, who can't score? Why aren't you more comfortable with the roster that can score? That's backwards thinking to me. I don't get it.
Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying it's like he got comfortable with that way the Bulls had to win the past 2 years, which is through. But no, during the regular season, they got comfortable with that way, which was winning through grit and determination and winning without. You know what I mean? Doing without. And it seems like he's more familiar with doing without than he is doing with. And I just want him to get comfortable with the fact that he's got it. And they put it in front of you and you have the players and everything that you need to succeed, and you don't need to continue to go down the road that you're going down. It's time to take the road. Let's travel.
And you've got the secret weapon on the bench in Cameron Barristow.
Oh, the white flag, my man.
he got in already a game this season.
Oh yeah, you knew the flag was raised. As soon as he came in, the flag was raised, man. It was a surrender, truce, or a parlay. One or the other. It was over when I saw him. And yeah, when I see him, I know the game is in good hands. Or we've lost a really bad game. But Tibbs wouldn't put him in a bad game. He'd probably leave the starters in, knowing Tibbs. Bulls be down by 30. He'll be mad. Put the starters in or something. But yeah, Tibbs is really and I keep saying this, he's really a love-hate guy. You love him on a lot of days and you hate him on some days, and he's just that kind of guy. He does everything you need for an NBA coach, to be a successful and a really good NBA coach. But then he does the silly things that makes you question if he should even, have the position that he has. Just for a second, you question it. You just question it for a second. But I think, he's still a good coach, though, man. He's still a good coach, and we'll be better with him than we are without him. Because some people start talking about fire Tibbs and all this other craziness on Twitter, and that's just insane. I'm like, well, the coach you plan on getting, you know what I'm saying, that took the team you saw last year to the playoffs. Like, this guy can coach. So, yeah, moving forward, though, I hope he learns from the mistakes he's making early and doesn't continue to make the same mistakes. And I just want him to grow. That's all I want. I just want him to grow and understand he's got a great team, man.
What was frustrating, though, in that second game against the Cavaliers is LeBron came out and played like LeBron. When the game before, he played against the Knicks, he looked like he'd never touched a basketball before.
Yes.
Why can't we ever get that LeBron?
Well, he used to, even in preseason, he didn't shoot the ball. Like, he didn't want to shoot the ball. Like, he was just trying to get the offense together. And, of course, he said he had a lot of stuff going on in personal life. But, yeah, I agree. Yeah, but you knew LeBron was not going to, was not going to keep not scoring. At some point he was going to pick up the pace offensively for his team, especially when they need it. But, yeah, I'm encouraged, though, because we look good against Cleveland, even though we didn't have a full roster. And Cleveland, as far as I know, had a full roster. So,
yeah, I mean, the big X factor is Jimmy Butler not playing, and he's becoming a really important cog to this team, which kind of scares me because he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, and he wants a lot of money.
Yeah, you wonder if he becomes too important, because at that position you kind of want a guy to be able to score a little more easily than he does. But let's hope that this year he improves his offense a little more, because you don't want to have to rely on his offense per se. You want him to score more points, but if you have to really depend on him scoring 20 points in the playoffs on a regular basis, then I'm a little worried a little bit.
I mean, I don't think with the way this team has been assembled, you really need him to score that much. I'm more worried about he's the best one-on-one defender we have, and he's got enough size to cover most anybody. And we don't have a lot of individual good defenders. Dunleavy's good in his system. McDermott's all right in the system. You've got Noah's a good defender.
Yes.
Rose is a suspect defender.
Yes, and one thing Butler could do is Butler could guard a point guard. I know he even guarded Rubio in Minnesota, so he could give Derek a break a little bit. Yeah, it's very versatile, very versatile. So what? Yeah, very versatile. I'm a little worried. I'm not worried, but I think that he will be back with the Bulls. He wants to play with the Bulls. I know contract-wise things are in question a little bit, but I think he'll be back. I think he'll be back.
Yeah, it just worries me because of how many ridiculous contracts you see in the NBA. Just when you think contracts are going to get under control, and then somebody offers 4 years, $60 million contract for a scrub, and you're like, what? Why?
Rubio, the worst jump shooter in the NBA, got $50 million. Yeah, the Curry. No, he may shoot well. I don't think Rubio gets enough attempts. Maybe he does. I don't know, but yeah, he's bad at jump shooting, and he got $50 million. Imagine you want to worse at the league at a crucial part of the game, shooting, and you get paid that much money. So. And you're on the losing team. The contracts in the NBA are just ridiculous. But hey, what are you gonna do?
But Chris, Ricky Rubio had 17 assists against the Bulls.
Oh, 17 assists, but he didn't score though, did he?
Well, that's just hearsay. We don't need to discuss that. I don't know why you would bring that up.
Points are overrated in the NBA.
Yes, they are. Yes.
I can live off blocks and assists
all day long.
Yeah. I remember Scott's got 20 assists.
30.
30.
Get it right, sir.
I'm sorry, 30?
Got 30 assists.
Don't try to shortchange my boy.
That's right. Don't you shortchange. Do not shortchange the greatest point guard performance of the regular season of all time, sir. The unreachable goal is Joe DiMaggio's 56. It's unreachable, sir. You won't get it. 30 assists in the game, man. He's great. No, it's 30. But just to piggyback on what you were saying about Jimmy Butler, I like how you said that as far as him scoring, it's not easy. It looks difficult for him to score, because one thing he does do well is get to the line, and I mean he gets to the line at least 10 plus times a game. And he's going to hit about 7. So, of course, that's going to increase his average. But I'm on record as saying if Jimmy Butler averages 18 points a game, I don't see who beat the Bulls in the East. I don't see the Bulls losing to anyone. Because if Jimmy Butler is your 18 points from the 2-guard position and he's playing defense, you're not losing, especially with how the Bulls move the ball.
It seems right now that sounds great. But every playoff series we watch for all the years in NBA we watch these playoff games, it comes down, can your guy go 1-on-1? It just does. D-Rose can. Butler's going to have the ball. He's going to be in the game. And they're going to need a score besides Rose. Who on our roster can go 1-on-1?
But what I'm saying, Jimmy Butler.
Aaron Brooks.
Yeah, Aaron Brooks definitely could go 1-on-1.
Now, we know good and well Kirk Hinrich is going to be in the game in the fourth quarter, which is the problem, right? That's exactly it.
In his head, Kirk Heinrich can go 1-on-1.
Yeah, he can, but he just misses.
He plays too much 2K. But I think when you say 1-on-1, Jimmy Butler draws those. That's how he draws those fouls. Is when they isolate him and he goes to the bucket. He's drawing those fouls. Those are 1-on-1 moves that he's making.
Even Leonard on San Antonio, as much as San Antonio ball movement, and everyone could shoot, he had to go 1-on-1 at times to take over games for San Antonio. I mean, that San Antonio had to have that player.
Right.
They have 3 of those.
Right. And that's
We had 1.5.
Right. And that's kind of how Kawhi Leonard won the MVP. You know what I'm saying? Go
Paul
ahead.
Gasol is not going to be a one-on-one guy towards the top of the key, but if you get him, you isolate him, anywhere where he can put his back to the basket, against most guys, he's going to be able to work him down or shoot over him, and so that's nice to have.
Oh, it's extremely nice to have, and I want Tibbs to understand that it's nice to have and have him in the fourth quarter.
Especially because he plays defense. How many blocks does he have this season already?
I mean, people aren't scoring. It's hard. The other game, he had 5 blocks. And it's hard for teams to score down there. And I just need Tibbs to recognize that. Like, teams are struggling when he's in the game more so than when he's out of it. And Taj, Taj is an awesome bench player. But he can be streaky. He can be hit or miss sometimes. And like you saw in Cleveland, he was kind of a miss. But, even though he had the ankle injury, and everything like that. But the consistency that you want, you look at Paul Gasol, man. I mean, look at the consistency right now in his scoring. I mean, he's been 20 points a game, 11 rebounds a game consistently, so far. I know it's early in the season, I'm just saying though, but so far he's been extremely consistent, and I'm excited for Paul Gasol, and he needs to be in the basketball game, especially with Joakim Noah having knee issues. And you can't tell me he's on a minutes restriction, and you play him over the minutes you have him restricted to. So you need more Paul Gasol, and yeah, I think that's the bottom line of it.
I mean, also the bottom line too is Joakim Noah has had much less injuries when he stopped wearing those little weird French shoes.
Yes. Oh, listen. I cannot tell you how many old podcasts we did on Bawl on Bulls of me complaining about those whack-ass shoes. And see, we're such Bulls fans that we go in depth with ours. And when I kept looking at those shoes because I saw nobody else in the world wearing these shoes.
Dave was the first person to point that out. He said, to me, he said, those shoes have to go.
They have to, because nobody else is wearing them. And then I researched them and found out there are shoes that are strictly made for people who play tennis. And the reason he got involved with it is his father is plugged with that shoe company because they're based out of France. And he's only wearing them based on a plug with his father. But they had never made basketball gym shoes ever. They only make shoes for tennis. So how can you expect people who have never done it before to actually do it right? It didn't make any sense. And every time I would see those shoes, I would complain. I would tell Chris, and I would say it on the podcast, the shoes have to go. Now, once the shoes left, as you pointed out, Sean, once the shoes left, you saw no kind of problems out of anything involved with his feet. No plantar fasciitis, any of those things, man. So
it's like when I was in high school, like I grew up real poor, and I had a pair of spikes. It was either my football spikes or my baseball spikes, and I got baseball spikes. So I had to wear my baseball spikes through football season too. And I'm wearing blue baseball spikes when my school colors are brown and orange. So and that's what I felt like Joakim. I'm like, Joakim, you make $10 million a year. You could buy some real shoes. Don't be wearing them funky ass things.
Yes, just stop wearing them, man. Like, it didn't make any sense. And it made me respect him more, the fact that he was doing that strictly off of loyalty. I'm telling you, he was doing that for loyalty and love. And the fact that he was playing at the level he was playing at in these whack ass shoes, just to have me I gave him a whole new measure of respect and love, man. I really did. So, but once he got out of them, what happened? First team All NBA, Defensive Player of the Year. You know, he thrived, and we'll never go back to those shoes, man. So I hope those shoes die.
Those shoes were like the opposite of Samson's hair.
Exactly. Those shoes were his Delilah. Those shoes were straight up his Delilah. They took him out, and it was ridiculous, man. But I'm glad he got rid of them. I'm glad he signed up with Adidas and Derrick Rose team. Now, as far as Adidas and Derrick Rose, I'm not a fan of, because he has your shoes on it, and he's had nothing but problems in the lower region of his body. And I've always felt that, and this is just personal, and Chris, I don't know if you feel this way, but I've always felt that an NBA player, when you reach that level of superstardom, there's only one shoe company you're supposed to be with, and that's Nike. When you're at that level of you're one of the top players in the game, like when you're at the level of LeBron, when you're at the level of Kobe, guys like that, you have to go to Nike. You don't stay with it. Adidas is your starter kit. Okay? Like Kevin Garnett learned it. He started with Adidas. He was with them because he's loyal, just more Chicago stuff. But once he got that real superstardom, those MVPs, those stripes turned into a check. It turned into the Nike check on his shoe, man. I just think Nike is the place to be when you're a super duper star, and I just want him to be with there. That's why I just want him to be there, because I don't know why in my head it's gonna make a difference.
Well, Rose wanted to do things differently. He went with the other brand, with the Skull Candy. Then he went with Adidas. He wanted to start. He didn't want to follow the path of the superstars of the past. He wanted to carve his own little niche, his own path as far as these sponsors and people he's associated with, and as far as endorsements. He wanted to do something different. I kind of respect that a little bit. He didn't want to be in the same commercial with Kevin Durant or LeBron James rocking Beats headphones. Do Skull Candy. I don't like Skull Candy so much, but
he likes to endorse anything you can get at 5 and below.
But here's my problem with what you're saying. Who's wearing Skull Candy? Nobody's rocking Skull Candy. Adidas will always be second or third. They'll be battling for Reebok forever. Like, I don't want my number one to be wearing number two. I just want my number one to be a number one. You know what I mean? Like, it's just synonymous with me, man. I'm sorry.
Also, then he'd be wearing Jordans, and he'd be associated with Jordan in Chicago again. And
no, he's not. No, he wouldn't be. If he was signed to the Jordan brand, then he'd be associated with Jordan, like Carmelo is, like CP3 is. But he's not. I don't want him to wear brand Jordan. I'm just saying wear Nikes. No, brand is, listen, it's Jordan brand. It's Nike and then it's Jordan. In brands of shoes. No. No. He said who made who. No, and he's right. But I'm saying like in brands of shoes, it's going to be Nike and then it's going to be Jordan as far as athletes are concerned. You know what I'm saying? And your great athletes are supposed to have, Nike on. If he wanted to wear Adidas later on to get his own like Dwayne Wade did, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But you got to go through the number one, man. You have to.
Every time I see the billboard and the ads with Derrick Rose wearing his Skull Candy headphones,
yes,
all I picture is this internet picture I saw of a guy with some cheap ass headphones, and he put masking tape all over it and wrote a B, and it says the struggle is real.
That's keeping it all the way real right there. That's too real for me. That's too real for radio, sir. Too real for podcast land. Yeah, man. But that's what I've always thought. Like Joakim Noah, yes, Adidas. That's Adidas time. You know what I mean? But guys like Derrick Rose, man, I just want him in a better shoe. And I blame them for everything. Just so Chris knows this. I blame Adidas for every problem Derrick Rose has had from the lower extremity on down. I'm just frustrated with that, man. But I know Derrick Rose is going to come back after this ankle injury. He's going to be okay because it's just a sprained ankle. So I think he'll be fine.
And plus, looking forward at the schedule is we got Orlando, Milwaukee, Philadelphia. I mean, those should be cakewalk games.
Yes.
So it's, even if you don't play Derrick Rose for the next week, and even if you don't play Taj the next week, you should roll those next 3 games and, be 5-1.
That's an excellent point. I didn't even think of it like that. Like, yeah, they definitely have some meatball opponents coming up, and like you said, those should be easy wins. Good padding wins, victories. And,
even after that, they get the Celtics, the Pistons, and the Raptors. So they don't have another reasonably tough game until they got the Pacers on the 15th.
If it's not, well, I think Toronto's more tougher than the Pacers. If it's not Miami or Cleveland, then I don't know who it is. Then there's no competition. Washington.
That's a tough game. Miami was going to be tough, and Washington is going to be tough.
Miami, Washington, and those people. Toronto's going to be a tough team.
And Toronto, yes, in Toronto.
Toronto, Indiana. I'm not worried about Indiana
at all.
Are you worried about Indiana, Sean?
I don't know. They're like a team like the Bulls where you think you count them out, and they. You got all these injuries and you got players quitting on you, but then the next thing you know, they're still plugging away and beating you. They do the ground and pound game.
Well, definitely there's like in the East, there's like this no competition at all. No, it's just weird. I wonder how many games the Bulls are gonna win this year.
That's interesting you bring it up here because that's a question I forgot to bring up to you on the show was how many they would win. And in my head, I don't see how they're not a 60-plus win team. I don't see, but who's beating them is what it comes down to. Like, who is beating them? You saw them yesterday play Minnesota. You saw Minnesota play pretty much the best game, one of the best games they're going to play this season. I'm not saying it's the best, but it's going to be one of the best they played this season. Rubio 17 assists. Kevin Martin had 33 points. He hit a 3 to pretty much. He thought he won the game. You know what I mean? He thought it was over. So. It was one of their best games, and they lost, and the Bulls still won the game, even with Jimmy Butler struggling, and even with Paul Gasol struggling, even with Derrick Rose and Taj Gibson out, they still won. So if you're still winning and you're not at 100% and you don't have your best players in, how do you not be a 60-win team? I think they're 60-plus. I think they're 60-plus, man.
That is a lot of wins. The Heat hasn't won 60 plus games. Had they? But once?
No, they have.
But like once with LeBron. I don't think they did it twice.
Well, that's because they were chilling.
That's my point. It's like that's hard. That's a lot of wins. 60 plus wins. I agree with you. You look at the schedule in this competition. You're like, why wouldn't they win 60 plus?
Right.
I'm gonna go 55 at most.
Okay. You got that.
I'm gonna go with you, Dave. I'm gonna go 60.
Mm.
It's a lot of wins, but they've got a cakewalk going forward, and then they've got a really deep team. I think, and I don't see them having too many like games where they just come out flat because Tibbs will lose his mind.
Yeah.
It could be they could be up by 10 games with 10 games left and already locked up the number 1 seed, and they're playing a scrub team that's not going to make the playoffs, and Thibodeau's going to be riding them to win that game.
Yes, that's a good point to bring up. This year especially, you expect them to clinch the playoff spot very early. It's going to be interesting to see how Tibbs handles that with his roster. Does he care, like you mentioned, about winning those games, even though they don't matter, or does he plug away and try to take the victories? I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Yeah.
Because Miami had a bad season in the regular season, and they still won 55 games.
It's true.
Yeah, 60 is a lot of victories. It's a lot of victories. You have to run off a bunch in a row to get 60. Like, you gotta have 10 5 games in a row, winning victories, 10 in a row. You gotta win a bunch in a row at the clip. So at a high pace. So I don't know. That's a lot of wins, but we'll see. The competition is bad. It's bad. NBA season this season feels kind of flat. Like the West didn't do it. The teams in the West didn't do much to improve their squads. They're pretty much the same. The East, Miami, Chicago are pretty much the only teams that done anything. New York, they got Phil Jackson, but they have the same players. So I don't know. Triangle, North Triangle. If you have the same players, what's the difference? The Clippers didn't do much. Golden State didn't do much. Hired a new coach. Okay, Curry's not gonna do anything. It's a flat season. I don't know. We'll see.
And I just want to say, because I'm sitting there looking at it, but last year the Miami Heat went 66-16. They won 66 games, man. So it's like for them to do it, with that kind of team, like you said, they were chilling, and they still pulled out 66 on you. So I don't see how they don't. I really don't. I don't see how they don't. Even, and because we saw them win 60 games before, in 2011. We saw them win those 60 games before, and we know how serious Thibs takes every single game. We saw him bring Jimmy Butler back in a preseason game when Jimmy Butler got injured. Jimmy Butler injured his thumb. He sprained his thumb, and Thibs put him back in the game. It's the preseason. So if he's taking it that seriously, there's no way he's not taking regular seasons like game sevens. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
In Tibbs' defense, though, is Butler's getting paid to play, so he needs to do his job.
Hey, Chris, tell him what would Tibbs say if Tibbs was talking about what the Bulls need to do to be a better team.
Well, gotta play hard, hustle, rebound, assist, guard the post. Guys gotta do their jobs.
They gotta do what, coach?
Do your job. Do your job.
Stay up, stay up, stay up, stay up.
Ice. For the love of God, can I get some ice nines? My little scratchings was not there though, but I conjured up a little bit though.
It's all right, man.
Sound better when I have a cold.
Yeah, when you need a shot of something. A simple shot of something, you'll be all right.
Can you imagine Tim getting on Scotty? Who yelled better than him? Him and Scotty. I don't know.
No, I think Phil did it better.
Oh yeah.
Phil did it better. Scotty!
Came from the belly.
Like, yeah, you. If he was his father, he would come running in the house. Scotty, man, I gotta go in.
Can we take a quick second to talk about Scottie Pippen's wife?
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
What would you like to say?
Good God.
And that has been a minute from Sean.
Well, I think what's even more impressive is I think she has about 4 kids. If I'm not mistaken. Her and Scotty have about 4 kids together. Yeah, man. So the fact she still looks like that just lets me know she's a hard worker. And you gotta respect the worker, man.
She does that Pilates.
Shout out to Scotty coming to the games, was on national TV. I didn't see Scotty at any games last year. Like, was he? Okay, I looked at the front row. Was he in the front row?
Yeah, he's in that same.
Okay, I didn't see him. Okay, I know this game against Cleveland, and he popped up like, yeah, I'm here.
No, he was there, man.
Yeah, but Scotty's wife, they've been married for quite a while, haven't they? Like 8 years, 10 years, something like that.
Since 1997.
1997, they've been
Once
married.
we're in the championship years.
The championship years.
Championship
Get that 6th ring.
when life was good.
She's like, give me that 6th ring. He put a ring on his finger.
Give me that Houston Rocket money.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
That was some big money. That was some big money.
He thought he got paid. Hey, he just want to get paid. That's all. Kraus didn't want to pay him. He want to get paid.
Well, Krause helped him get paid on that one.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
4 kids. She has 4 children. 4.
By Scotty?
All by Scotty.
All right.
4.
Well, will either one of them play ball?
Oh, I don't see why not.
I mean, one of them has to be like 6'7", and yeah.
I just showed Chris a picture of it, and he just stopped everything he was.
Pause.
Yeah, he took a quick pause, and he's marinating on what he's looking at right now. He hasn't spoken for about at least a good 20 seconds. What is she wearing? What is she wearing? Some Nike.
She's not getting injured.
She likey the Nike. All right, she got on the number 1. She got on the Nike, man. But yeah, Scottie Pippen's wife. That's the wife you get when you are an NBA player who wins. Like his wife matches his career. You know what I'm saying? His wife matches the career he had in the NBA.
Yeah, Juanita Jordan's probably a very nice lady, but Michael Jordan traded her in for a new model.
Right, exactly. No, and you know what? And he's right. No, he's absolutely right. But they both did it the correct way. Mike married her because Juanita Jordan was a pretty woman and still is. But he married her. They had 3 kids. And the one thing she did was she kept her mouth shut. She didn't say anything. And what happened in the divorce proceedings? Mike gave her some of everything. She don't have to work again ever. He paid her off for silence. That's what he paid her for silence. He didn't pay because you're not going to find her on Basketball Wives. You're not going to find her, on any reality show or do anything like that because she understands her role and she did it correctly. And Mike gave her that
she
money.
went to the Cookie Johnson school of just shutting your mouth.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Yeah,
So Cookie Johnson is the queen of just shut your mouth and take that paycheck. Because Magic Johnson he's worth stupid amounts of money.
Yep.
That dude is worth coming on $1 billion.
Yep. Absolutely.
And Cookie's like, you know what? I'll get AIDS tested every once in a while.
Right.
Keep that money coming in.
Like, you know what? Yeah, the HIV not so bad. They got medicine for that, right? They got some medicine.
She's like, I just grind up a couple hundreds and inject that right in.
Right.
Wards it off.
I heard they're doing some things with it in Africa, so I'll go check that out. She understands, man. She gets, but you're right. They are paid for their silence. And I mean, the perfect example to that is Shaq's wife. I mean, Shaq's wife, they had those children, but what did she do? She went, she got reality shows, she's got Basketball Wives, all those things. She's always on TV. Now, you saw her, and now nobody knows who she is anymore because you lost that title with being Shaq's wife. Now you the crazy wife who wants to have a reality show, as opposed to Kobe's wife who understood the role. She was like, hey, man, look, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. You ain't heard her say anything.
Well, she started to go a little crazy, but then he gave her that $4 million ring, and then she
you didn't hear anything.
Well, I forgot the rules for a second.
Well, she got mad, you know what I'm saying, which is her right. She has the right to be mad. I mean, Kobe was doing some wild things. She had the right to be mad about it, but she did it correctly. She shut her mouth, and she came on back home. Because it's got to be a heck of a thing when you're in LA and you're able to say table for 2 for Miss Bryant and her friend. It's not table for 2 for you and your homegirl because that's an hour and a half wait. When you're Miss Bryant, you're getting right in. You don't wait at the club. You don't wait at the restaurant. You don't wait at certain things. But when you are Kobe's wife, that means something. When you're just you're put in the whole barrel with everybody else. You know what I'm saying? You're just a girl trying to get paid and do these things. So she did the right thing, and I appreciate her for her silence. And respect to her because she's a pretty girl too. Vanessa Bryant is pretty, man. She's a pretty woman. Pretty woman. She's pretty.
So one last thing I wanted to talk about with you guys is switch gears a little bit. And the only thing I want to say this week about the Bears, because I need to get that out of my system, is do you feel any better that you saw the Patriots go and put a hurting on Peyton Manning and the Broncos today?
No. Because Brady has a habit of kicking Manning's ass a lot. It seems like. So I didn't. No, this is the Patriots. I'm not surprised at all. Not surprised.
I mean,
now Miami is winning too. Did Miami win today? They was like 30-0.
It's 37-0.
Yeah, but
they put a hurting on the Chargers.
So, right.
So there's still all kinds of problems with the Bears, but at least makes me feel like we're not the ugly redheaded stepchild of the league ananymore. It makes me feel like, all right, well, these teams are just kicking everyone's ass.
No, because we're supposed to be good. It's not. No.
What I'm saying is, it instead of feeling like underneath the bottom of your shoe dirt, it makes me feel like that awful thing that you got growing on the top of your toe, or at least one rung up.
Okay. All right.
I mean, we could be Oakland.
No, we're not gonna be Oakland.
I'm just trying to keep it into perspective. I'm not saying we're good. I'm not saying we're Super Bowl bound. What I'm saying is it could be worse. And it made me feel a little better today that somebody else got whooped up on by the Patriots and by the Dolphins, because it says, well, you know what, we got whooped too, but then so did they. Makes me feel like I'm not alone in this pity party.
Well, that's true. That's true. It's team.
But no, the difference between the pity parties is this. The Broncos get their butts whipped, but they still know they're going to the playoffs. They still know that they're a really good team, and they still know that they're on the right track. We don't know what we're doing. We don't have any clue. And so us being 3-5 and that butt whooping, it didn't make me feel any better because I know next week, whoever the Broncos play, they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah,
Because-
the Broncos remind me of that guy that's not that tough, and he gets the crap beat out of him by a bigger guy. So then he goes home and beats the crap out of his wife so he could beat somebody up. And so the Broncos are going to go hurt whoever they're playing next week, even though they're not as good as everyone thinks they are.
How come you didn't make my dinner tonight? You're going to be upset. But they're not. But the Bears, it's just frustrating. And I was talking about this with my friends, man. He was just like, man, they just suck. Like, it just sucks where we're at right now because of the talent and what we have and the fact that we're still 3-5. So us losing the Packers was more, for me, was more of a continuation. It was like, okay, well, next week I got Green Bay. Like, I don't expect my team to win that. But whoever the Broncos play, I'm sure they're going to be, favored, if not a favorite to lose by like one, or it's going to be even, one or the other.
Unless, you have, I don't know, one of those weird injuries like the guy from the Detroit Lions last year where he was bringing home a pizza and he drove his car off the road and broke his arm. If we have something like that with Aaron Rodgers, we got a chance.
So you're saying there's a chance. Barring a miracle injury that's crazy I called it that. But barring a miracle injury for Aaron Rodgers, the Bears are in serious trouble, man. And it just doesn't look good going forward. I'm listening to Mark Trestman talk, and he's like, well, I remember being with Oakland and going into the bye week, we were 4-4, and then we came out and, we made it to the Super Bowl. I'm like, hey, that's cute. You know what I mean? That was 2002? Like, that was wonderful. We're talking about 2014 right now, man. I don't want to hear any comparison to what you did over 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to hear that. This is a different team. Different time. I don't want to hear that comparison. All right, Jake, go ahead.
And it kind of hurts watching the Cardinals kick everyone's ass because we could have had Bruce Arians.
Don't mention that, man. Reading that article I read talking about Bruce Arians. Chris, I don't know if you read this article.
No. Well, I know what. Go ahead.
Well, Bruce Arians, they were because him and the Bears were hot on Bruce Arians, very close to getting him, and of course, he chose to not come with the Bears. And so they asked him, in this article why he didn't come to the Bears. And he said, well, he's like, first of all, they asked me to keep on certain coaches on the team, like Marinelli, Rob Marinelli. They wanted to keep Rob Marinelli, who everybody knew. If you were a Bears fan, you knew Rob Marinelli was not staying the minute they fired Lovey. Because he kept saying it, that I roll with Lovey. Like, he was a loyal Loveyist. He was a Lovey guy.
You mean to tell me Ron Marinelli was one of the guys they wanted to keep?
Yes.
Oh, they wanted to keep him bad.
I don't understand. Are they brain dead? We are fans. We know Marinelli is not going to go anywhere. It's going to leave because Lovey left. We knew that. So how does management not know this?
That's my point.
I mean, seriously, I had to sit back and think about this for a second. Like,
ponder that thought.
Like they actually thought they was going to keep Marinelli after.
I believe I'm gonna have to pull. There was a press conference where I think they actually said they were really shocked that he didn't stay, even though he must have said in the media 400 times, "I'm leaving."
Right.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about this guy who also thinks Cutler is a quote unquote elite quarterback because he has a winning record. Same guy, right?
It's the same guy. It's also
I'm a little worried now.
It's also the same guy who, when he was asked about the field turf, said, well, if turf mattered in the performance of a team, then the Jacksonville Jaguars would be in the playoffs. And that, he started naming other whack teams. But I'm like, that's the dumbest argument ever, man. Like, of course, there are exceptions to every rule, but the rule is the rule. You're going to have exceptions, but what makes you different than the Patriots? You know what I'm saying? A lot. And if the Patriots are doing something that works and helps their team progress because their offense needs that kind of grass field to play on, then you give it to them. They're better on that field. The Saints are better in the dome, right? So guess what? They can play in the dome because their offense is faster. When the Rams were the greatest show on turf, it was on turf because they were faster and it helped them. I don't know why they don't want to help the team. Having a better field helps your offense. It helps your guys perform better, and I don't know why they don't understand that.
And the Bears are tight-fisted, and the Chicago Park District has no money. That's what it boils down to.
I guess so.
But
I don't.
Don't the Bears? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Chris. I want to ask this question to you, Sean, because maybe you know this and I don't. But even though I know the Park District owns it and they don't have the money to do it, are you telling me the Bears can't put up money to get this field fixed?
They could.
Like, it doesn't seem like something that would cost, regardless of what it costs them, it don't seem like it's going to break them, financially.
I mean, if you look at it, is they put so much money into having to put more crappy grass on that crappy field every year, which costs a lot of money. Just put real turf down there. I mean, this isn't like 1987 when you have that AstroTurf where it's some concrete spray painted green. They've got real legitimate stuff. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever watch University of Michigan games, but they've got like an irrigation system built in there. They've got like French drains underneath this thing. They've got old rubber tires meshed into the grass. They've got the grass is like 4 different colors, so if you brush it, you can see the color change like you do with real grass. Like, it's legit stuff. I mean, a lot has changed over 25 years.
Hey, if you want to play with the big boys, you gotta, do what the big boys do.
I'm willing to put in my 14 cents to help them to pitch in to get some real field.
Yeah, help out a little bit because they got Jay Cutler's contract to work with, to worry about. So, but they pinching pennies a little bit. But it's because when your team loses, you start focusing on other things like 3 and 5. Well, the field turf can help them out. Maybe field turf could give them 1 win or something, or whatever. It's a shame though that they're 3 and 5. I don't know, but I'm still gonna watch them because I like football, and I'm a fan. I like football, and any given Sunday you can win, except next week when they play the Green Bay Packers. But besides that, any other Sunday they can win the game. Oh man, just I don't know.
I mean, it becomes frustrating, and not to harp on this field thing, but I remember I was having this discussion with someone, and they were saying, well, the Pittsburgh Steelers play on natural grass and play on natural grass field. And I'm like, okay, well, that argument would work for me if the Bears had 5-6 championships like the Pittsburgh Steelers do. Like, I'm sorry, if you are winning championships on your field, then I have no issue with you having the field you have. But if it's not working and you're not winning and things aren't going right and players are complaining about it, people who play on the field are telling you it's bad.
But Pittsburgh is it's not as bad as Pittsburgh Stadium is not as bad as Soldier Field.
No,
with the grass.
It's not.
And Pittsburgh plays a style that they're not trying to to use a ton of speed. They're
right.
trying to keep it in the trenches and beat you down, and they don't need to
exactly.
Super nice turf for that.
Their offense plays to their team. Their field, is set up for their team. And how their team operates. That's exactly the point, Sean. Like, they're a pound team with the run, and Ben Roethlisberger is tough, and he gets the ball down the field to the open receiver. But these guys grind it out. Pittsburgh Steelers are tough. That's what they do, and that's and their field matches their team. The Bears are trying to be an offensive team, and to be a great offensive team, you're gonna need a good field for your offense to thrive on. It's just that simple. I don't understand why they don't understand that. I mean, that's just what the great offensive teams do. I mean, you look at Atlanta. I mean, that's a great offense down there. Guess what? They play on some awesome field. They play in a dome. This is what you do, man. So I don't get it. I don't get why they're so stubborn about this. But I always have felt that changing the field is the last thing that the Bears need to do to let me know that they're serious about winning.
I mean, the Cubs are doing it.
Yeah, yes. If the Cubs are doing it, I've been dying for them to do it. And I'm so happy they tearing down. When I go back and I see the stadium and I see stuff torn down, I'm excited. I'm happy, okay, because that the stuff the Cubs are doing lets me know they want to win. You know, it's not about, you know, this old, you know, we need to keep it because of the nostalgia. Well, nobody got no nostalgia about losing for 100 years. Ain't nothing nostalgic about that.
I want nostalgia about a World Series title.
There you go. That's what you're gonna remember, and I guarantee you, when the Cubs win a title, they won't think anything about any past season ever in the history of the Cubs. None of it will matter.
I promise you, everyone's gonna remember a World Series title. Nobody's gonna be waxing nostalgic about peeing in a trough.
Right. Thank you. God, I hate. Oh man, you hit it on the head. I complain about it all the time when I go to Wrigley. I don't like going there because it's like going into an old 1920s museum. I don't want to go there to a museum. The seats, listen, people are bigger now than they were during the Depression era. People weren't eating food in the Depression era. They were starving. Okay? They were starving. So, of course, they're going to be smaller. So your seats could be that small. People are bigger now. America's a bigger country, man. You need bigger seats. People like Jumbotrons. They like updates on their thing, man. You know what I mean? They like individual urinals. You know, like, this is the things we like.
I mean, there's too many Peter Peekers. I don't.
Yes, absolutely. I never go in there to pee. I have to really, 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 really have to pee for me to go in the Cubs bathroom, man. Because it's just ridiculous. I'm not a horse. Like I'm not peeing in a circular trough, man. I'm not doing that, man. Come on, man. It's ridiculous. But I'm very proud of the Cubs. Since you mentioned them, I'm very proud of them and how they're operating. And this is coming from a guy who's a White Sox fan, but I'm very proud of what they're doing and how they're doing it. How they got Joe Maddon, I was so proud of. I was very proud because it was about no feelings. We didn't care nothing about how you felt. We trying to win. Nobody cared about Renteria. They were calling them classless and stuff for Renteria. But I care about your classless. What are you talking about? You want to be a terrible winner or a lovable loser? I'd rather be the terrible winner, man. And go ahead and do that because this is a top 5 manager we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? You don't just sit there and say, well, we can't get rid of him because he's a nice guy. Renteria is just a nice guy. We can't get rid of him. No! You tell him, man, thank you for doing this. It was nice, but, you know, hey, man, it's basically, you know, nobody criticized the Broncos for how they did it. You know, they didn't sit there and be like, man, well, you know, Tim Tebow's a great guy. You know, we can't get rid of him because of that reason. We can't bring in one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history in Peyton Manning because, you know, Tebow's a great guy. No, Tebow, it was nice. Thank you very much. But we got this cat right here. We're going to bring him on in, man. And that's what the Cubs are doing, and I appreciate that. You know what I'm saying, Chris?
Yeah, it's like years the Cubs. I hate to sound like this, but the Cubs fans how they act, but you know, lovable losers or whatnot. They seem the fan base, the majority of them, the ones that I heard, tends to seem like they fall in love with the team and the current roster, no matter how the roster or the team is configured. Now, who's on there, they fall in love with them. I don't understand how you could be against getting mad. It just makes no sense to me. These managers get paid a lot of money. I could get fired from my job tomorrow. You can get fired from your job. Listen, you got a top 5 manager. Get him. When you win a World Series, you won't even think about that dude anymore. You won't think about the old stadium. You won't think about the 86 Cubs or whatever. All that stuff is gone. Gone. Because you won. Win. That's what you want to do. Win.
I'm a Cubs fan. I'm nostalgic and all, but I would sacrifice Ryan Sandberg at an altar if it meant a World Series title.
Right, because no one remembers second place. The only people that remember second place are Cubs fans, apparently. I don't, or people, because there's no other place to think about. So get rid of that. Here's a chance for you to be a top echelon team, the best manager, the best upcoming players. Get some great free agents. You got a great general manager up there doing this thing. Be up a tier. Don't be afraid. Fire the guy. Bring in someone who could win and win a World Series.
Sean, let me ask you, because you say you're a Cubs fan. How do you feel about the changes that the Cubs are making? Like as far as the stadium's concerned, the management. You know, how do you feel about it?
I'm excited about it. I mean, from the bottom up, they've done everything right. They've cleared house of bad contracts, old players, not productive players. They've got a whole class of young guys. They've even fired minor league organizations and got ones that had better facilities. And, I mean, they got rid of the one in Florida. They got rid of the one in Tennessee. They got rid of the Kane County affiliate. They went to affiliates that had better organizations and better fields and facilities. And now they're building a new Wrigley Field, and they're getting ready to spend some money. They got a real manager. So, I mean, they've done everything that they can do. It's exciting. It's nice to watch a real team be made.
Yeah, it is, man. And ever since Theo Epstein came here, I've been on board with the Cubs, because I kept telling people, I'm like, no, man, this dude has a plan. You can see it that he has a plan, but he has a lot to take out. Like, it was so much trash that he had to take out first before he can, start building on something. You had to tear down the entire house. You couldn't just build over the foundation, which is what the Cubs kept doing year after year.
It's like buying a hoarder house.
Yes, exactly. And buying a house like with termites. You know what I mean? Instead of just tearing down the wood to remove all the termites, you just tried to treat it. You know what I mean? And be like, okay, well, it'll be fine, once we put this little treatment on it. Not thinking in their head, hey, more termites are going to come back once they find another way to get up on this wood. So the fact that they're tearing it down and removing the foolishness and the terrible decisions and the bad free agent signings and the terrible draft picks and the bad farm systems, like from top to bottom, he really had to revamp this entire organization, not just team, the organization. He had to revamp it, man. And you're finally seeing him in that phase, you know what I'm saying, of, okay, I'm getting to that point where I'm comfortable. I'm getting comfortable with what I'm doing. I'm getting comfortable with who I'm bringing in. And now they have the manager they want. The only next logical step is to get the players they need, Chris.
Yeah, and with all these moves, he's building a new fan base. A fan base of young Cub fans who are hopefully celebrating this team with a new stadium, a new way of thinking, a new mindset for the fans and the organization as a whole. I hope that I can't stand when I turn the TV on like Saturday or something, WGN. I got this hour-long program about how great the Cubs were in the past. I'm like, how do they deserve an hour thing on TV? I know it's Channel 9, whatever, but like, why are you celebrating losing? Why is that hour special? You talk to the fans celebrating losing. You haven't won anything. Let's hope this is the beginning of a new fan base, a new generation of fans, and so to celebrate winning attitude, winning ways, new stadium, new GM, new way of thinking. Let's start anew, start over again. Because I'm a Cubs fan as well. I'm a White Sox fan and a Cubs fan. I grew up watching the Cubs a lot. I'm from the South Side, so I'm more of a Sox fan. I watched the Cubs play a lot. I boycotted the Cubs for like 3 years now. I haven't watched pretty much a game. Because I earned that right to boycott them, damn it. I watched Steve Buechele bat fourth. All right? Steve Buechele.
But with that, I'm going to wrap it up, guys. I want to thank the guys from Bawl, Dave and Chris.
Wow!
And you definitely want to check out that show. You could check it out at rookietv.com/Bawl. And you can check them out at Bawl Sports on Twitter. And also on iTunes.
Yes.
Thanks a lot for being on the show, guys. I really appreciate it.
Really appreciate you, Sean, man. Thank you very much. It was a great time.
All right, have a good one.
You too, bro.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank our guests, Chris and Dave from Bawl Sports. You can check them out on Twitter at Bawl Sports, BAWL Sports, or rookietv.com/Bawl. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her, you can have her, she's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Denver New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.